Hello football fans and welcome to the channel. We have been long overdue for a new football series, as I haven't been working on one on this channel since the summer of last year. And today, I'm finally ready to show you what is coming next. As you can already tell, it's time to go back to the college football world with NCAA Football 14, a game that I've already spent a massive amount of time in because we haven't had a new game in nearly 10 years. But in the time since this game came out, I have played 10 years in my Minnesota Dynasty. I've played 14 years in my Team Builder Kalispell Dynasty, and even put out a massive 2-hour-long video a year ago for a 15th season. After Kalispell, I wasn't sure if I would come back to this game as I spent so much time with it and wanted to move on. Last year I concluded my massive 200 episode long Denver Broncos franchise, and since then I've been waiting for something that I'm excited to create when it comes to football on this channel. And it's taken a while to get there, but I'm there again. I'm ready to return to Dynasty, and I've brought some old friends with me. The UTSA Dynasty is back, and I've brought the team into College Football Revamped. For those unaware, because it has been over 3,000 days since the last episode in this series, this was my very first Dynasty series, and it was on NCAA Football 13. The UTSA Roadrunners were my team as it was their very first year playing FBS football, and I wanted to take on what was a very young program, and it was an unbelievably fun series. I played with the Roadrunners for 5 seasons, and the series only ended because we got NCAA Football 14 the next year, and I moved on to the Minnesota Gophers Dynasty. And you know what's happened since. Because NCAA 14 has been the last college football game, I had a full dynasty with Minnesota, and then a larger dynasty with the Kalispell Warhawks. But my UTSA dynasty ended very incomplete. We just had our best season in team history and won our first bowl game to conclude the 5th season. There was still a lot for this team to accomplish, and I'm here to finish the job now in College Football Revamped, as I have brought the team over from NCAA 13 and recreated them. I've changed around some numbers and some gear, and I did improvise a little bit on some of the ratings and some of the recruits who were coming in from the following recruiting class. But this story essentially picks up where UTSA left off in September of 2013 when I ended the dynasty. And I'm so excited to continue this story now in College Football Revamped. I knew the dynasty ended without a true satisfying conclusion, and I have thought about bringing back this series for at least 7 years, on and off. I used to think about it a lot, and it wasn't until recently that I started to think about, well, College Football Revamped is such a fresh experience to bring this team into. I mean, they have overhauled the look of this game. First off, the team that's put together College Football Revamped has done an incredible job modernizing this legendary college football game. I can tell they've cleaned some things up with the gameplay, and the uniforms look spectacular. They've brought in teams like Coastal Carolina. It's amazing what they've been able to do. Last weekend, I did the February channel member live stream. And in these channel member streams, I typically reveal different things that are going to come to the channel. And I did talk about bringing back the UTSA Dynasty, but I said it would be an NCAA 14 and not College Football Revamped because my computer was not running it very well. Well, I took care of that by getting a new computer because I wanted the proper PC experience. I wanted to push this game graphically and use the editors and just have everything more convenient, as well as being able to mod Madden and maybe make Madden on PC my main way of playing going forward. I really want to explore more of this side of things because honestly, as a franchise and dynasty player, I think mods are the only way I'm ever going to get the football game I want in my lifetime, honestly. And I think what they've done with College Football Revamped, what Sabo has done with the mods on Madden 22, there's so many cool things happening, and I wanted a machine that could really run it well and allow me to make the content that I want. My PC was doing well for everything else, but running the emulator in College Football Revamped is pretty intense. I had to get a little more horsepower. I got it now, and the game runs very smooth, and I am so excited to be back in NCAA 14, but with this fresh experience playing Revamped. And I'm blown away by what I've seen so far, and I'm so excited to bring you the UTSA Dynasty Revamped. It's taken me a lot longer than it should have, but I've been checking out a lot of the new Revamped Dynasties on YouTube right now, and shout out to Bengal and Good Game Bro and Not the Expert for continuing to make Dynasty content, and I've had the itch to come back, and not only that, but I want to finish the job at UTSA. So like I said, I have recreated the roster. I went back to NCAA Football 13, and I went through the offseason that never happened because the dynasty ended. I found out who we ended up getting as recruits, and some of them have made it into this game. Honestly, it was kind of an OP recruiting class in some parts. Like, we had 3 of the top 10 corners in the country, and I did do some tweaking to the roster because I wanted this roster to come in making sense and to feel like, you know, there's not just a bunch of freshmen we have to watch develop into like 95 overalls or something. There's a good blend of balance, I think, in the roster here. So this is not us starting out as like a 46 overall team. It's a lot closer to the Minnesota Dynasty starting point. But I want to take this UTSA team and now stick them in the Big 12. This is a conference I have yet to do a major series with, so we haven't played a lot of teams like Oklahoma State or Oklahoma or Baylor heavily. Didn't include Texas there, and not because Texas isn't back yet, but because they were actually a big part of the Kalispell dynasty. They had our number, but Texas is in the Big 12 as well, and I would like to, you know, keep the Big 12 together and not send off Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. So I like the idea here of having these top teams in Texas. There's Baylor and Texas Tech and the Longhorns, and having UTSA try to become the best team in Texas and the Big 12 all at the same time. I haven't yet started the actual Dynasty file because I wanted to get some feedback and just see what everybody thinks before I dive all the way in. I've been recreating the roster and some of these players multiple times because I was initially making the team just on my PlayStation in NCAA 14. But I wanted the revamped experience, so I gladly recreated everything, and everything's so much smoother in the emulator too. And I've also been building an offense that I think fits where this team is, especially compared to the talent that's going to be on the other teams in this conference, because we're going to go from a very good Conference USA team to a team that will not have as much talent as their opponents most of the time. I'm excited to build the rest of this offense. I still need to put a lot more time into it, and they've added plays to this game as well in Revamped, including in a formation that I was heavily building the offense around. I love what they've done, and I'm going to explain this offense to you more in depth in the next video, which is going to be a preseason scrimmage, just like in the Kalispell Dynasty, a good introduction to the team where we're going to have a team of half the players versus another team of half the players, a mix of starters and backups on both sides, and I will give you a solid primer on what this UTSA offense is going to be all about. It's unlike anything I've done before. It is not triple option, wishbone, wing T. It is a pro-style offense, but it is heavily inspired by Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. I will tell you that much. I hope for those of you that have watched the UTSA Dynasty that you are excited for it to be back, and for those that have no idea who those players were in the intro, I hope you're excited to get to know them because there are some very fun players on this team. This roster is strong in the defensive front seven, and I like the running backs on this team a lot. I also think we have a decent offensive line, but I do want some feedback from you on a few things before I actually get started. First off, I've also brought in head coach Eric Taylor from the UTSA Dynasty. I was watching a lot of Friday Night Lights back in the 2012-2013 days. So he was the head coach, and I can decide what level he's going to be when I get this dynasty started. So you can tell me if he should be level 0, or because he's been our coach, should I start him off at like level 10 or something like that as a decent starting point, but still with a lot of progression left over. I also need candidates for 2 coordinators because in the NCAA 13 file, we had brand new coordinators with no experience and no talents or anything. So I'm going to make coordinators brand new for this series. And then I need to set a couple house rules, I think, because I kind of know the ins and outs of NCAA 14's recruiting to a point. And I don't want this to be some simple rebuild of mine that is so easy to recruit that 2 years later you can turn like anything into a powerhouse. So I do want to set a couple house rules, and one that I am really fond of is to start your recruiting, and basically from those 35 players, those are the 35 you're basically scouting and recruiting all season. Now, I would allow myself to remove and add other players, but I think maybe you limit that to only 3-star and under players, because eventually you find those players, you know, later in the season who have like 4-star ability, they scouted very well, but like no one's interested. So you can just walk right in and say, hey, here's 400 points a week and a scholarship, and this is the easiest recruiting battle of all time. I really want to make the recruiting more rewarding. I don't want to exploit the weaknesses in the system. I do think the recruiting system is one of the weaker points of NCAA 14 because I wish there were a couple difficulties above Heisman, honestly. But I want to put some limits there. I like the idea of picking my board in the preseason, and if I want 5-star players, I have to target them then. I also think maybe some limits on JUCO players and athletes, because JUCO players end up being some of the better, lower caliber, like 2 or 3-star prospects you can get, and athletes are the best recruits in the entire game, by far. One thing I know I will do is when Coach Taylor gets upgrades, I will alternate between the recruiting and game management skill trees. I'm not going to go all in on recruiting to get all those abilities and then move on. I'm going to go one at a time to keep it balanced there, and I think that'll be a refreshing sense of progression. But if you have any feedback on recruiting rules that you think would make sense and make it more rewarding and realistic, leave those in the comments. I'm looking for suggestions. I don't know yet about sliders here. I'm sure everything's a little bit different. Like, they've tightened up coverage, definitely, and it's really nice. So I'm not sure exactly what the sliders will be, but I'll get some feedback and I'll get something together. I don't think that'll be too much of a worry. But I am really excited to get this offense more fleshed out and to get into Dynasty, and I have plans for all these auto subs and how I want to use a bunch of players. So that's going to be coming soon. I am ready to get going here with the spring game once the offense has been complete, and I'm working on that. I've already added a bunch of stuff to the playbook. And I think here in College Football Revamped, we're going to have a really nice time bringing football and Dynasty back to the channel. I am looking forward to all your feedback. Please leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section. I want to deliver an incredible Dynasty experience. And I want to thank you all for all the support over the years, allowing me to continue making this content. I will try to get that spring game up as soon as I can. I got to get some stuff taken care of here in game. But the team is built, and I'm ready to see them play some football again. Please leave a like if you're excited for the return of the UTSA Dynasty and College Football Revamped. Subscribe to the channel, because there's a new series getting underway. I'll see you all next time. Have a great day, and go Roadrunners.